Welcome to the Energetically You podcast, where we will be talking about healthy habits, abundant mindset, and optimal wellness. I'm your host, Megan Swan, creator of the Sustainable Integrated Wellness Approach. At 30, I sold everything and went on my own eat, pray, love journey, if you will. And now, at 41, I'm still on my first stop here in Mexico, loving life and feeling more energy than ever before. This podcast is for ambitious women who are looking to level up their energy so that they feel happier and more productive throughout their day in all of their projects and passions. Inside, we are going to be talking about ways to truly tune in to our minds and bodies in new ways to leverage our natural energy sources. So let's dive in. Hello and welcome back to Energetically You. I'm your host, Megan Swan. I am the creator of the Sustainable Integrated Wellness Approach. Today, I have the honor of interviewing one of my business coaches. She is an expert in magnetism. She is a beautiful marriage of strategy and spirituality in business. And she teaches you how to do less while doing more, if you will, using human design, NLP, EFT tapping, and she's just a bit of an expert on the feminine frequency and the ebb and flow of the feminine and the masculine in your business and in life. So I am so thrilled to have Laura Niese with us today. Laura, how are you? Thank you so much for getting up early for us today.
Hi, I'm fabulous. Thank you. I'm super excited to be here.
Awesome. Why don't you introduce yourself to my audience and tell us your zone of genius? What are you doing in business and in life right now?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Laura. I'm living in Bali, Indonesia. I've been here for about 3 years. But before I moved here, I was actually a pediatric oncology nurse. And I did bone marrow transplants as well for 4 years. So that feels like a completely different life. But when I was doing the nursing, I never really realized how stuck I felt until I traveled to Thailand. And then it was in Thailand when I was 28 years old where everything cracked open and made me want to scream. And I realized I really just wanted to be my own boss. So I started a travel blog and I was doing that for about a year. And since I'm a master manifester, at the end of 2018, I manifested getting fired. Thank you, universe. That was a blessing in disguise. But I ended up moving to Bali in the beginning of 2019. And from there, I've just been on, the entrepreneurial journey of finding something that I really love to learn, embodying that, jumping to the next thing, embodying that. And along my path, I discovered NLP, I discovered human design. Now I'm super into learning about masculine, feminine energetics and just like female embodiment and dipping into feminine energy. So it's been such a fun ride.
Awesome. Well, let's focus. I love everything you do and everything that you're diving deep into these days, but let's try and focus on human design. You mentioned that you're a manifester. Can you give the people who have no idea what human design is, a very brief background, and also where did you discover it? How did you get into it?
Yeah, so human design was created in 1987 by this guy, Ra Uruhu. It was given to him in Ibiza, which always makes me laugh. But he spent weeks putting it all together, and it combines a bunch of different modalities. It combines astrology, the Chinese I Ching, the Kabbalah. What else does it include? Just quantum physics, the chakra system. And it's not necessarily a personality test. It's based on where the stars and the planets were at the time of your birth. So to look up your human design, you need to enter your birth month, your date, time, and location. But essentially, it gives you a blueprint at your core as to where your traits come from, what you're here to like experience, like how your soul came here to experience life, how your energy works. And when you really align to your human design, life just becomes really flowy for you. Like a lot of synchronicities happen. You really just flow with life is what really happened with me. Like my business became easier. I was just interacting in the world easier. So yeah.
Yeah. I have also found that using it as a guide, it's helped me just feel or trust more in what I sort of already knew my energy flow was, but it gives you like a structure or a guide to know why that might be, that you don't ebb and flow exactly like somebody else, or even like, your partner, for example, or your boss. Tell us more about your personal type and how you've worked that into your business. What's changed since you, I don't know, respected isn't the right word, but now that you feel like that it's more fully integrated into how you run your business and make decisions.
Yeah. So I am a manifester. Manifestors are 7% of the population. And when I first started in the online space, the first 2 business coaches I hired were more in the masculine energy. And I'm pretty sure that they were generators or manifesting generators because they worked a lot. They were into the hustle. They were probably working like 10-hour days, but loving it. Like it was their passion. I just could not keep up. I was like, what is wrong with me? I felt a lot of guilt and shame because I didn't want to be working all the time. I was tired. And then when I learned I was a manifestor's energy type, we work in bursts or spurts. So I'll channel a really cool idea of like a program I want to create, for example. And then I'll have the energy to like initiate that, get it off the ground. But then I need to rest for like, sometimes it takes me, it depends. Like if it's a big project or a task and I initiate that, sometimes, it'll take me 2 weeks to just kind of rest until I get the next download or idea. And then I initiate that and I rest. So like how my workflow looks now is I have 2 days during the week where I don't do any work. I have no client calls. I call one a goddess day and one is just like a free flow day. And then like when it comes to client calls and things, I try not to pack my schedule with too many like client calls. Like maybe I'll do maximum 3 in a day and then just rest in between. But I really work in bursts, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And so how has it sort of helped you feel less guilt and shame about structuring your life exactly like, another coach maybe taught you, or the standard societal norm of 9 to 5 kind of idea?
Yeah. So, a lot of us in business a lot of us are taught to run our businesses like manifestors, which is super interesting because the strategy of a manifestor is to initiate, right? And all of the other designs have different strategies. But if you're a generator, right? Manifesting generator? Right. Generator. Yeah. So, it's interesting, like when you are doing something that you don't love, for example, so a generator is here to follow their passion and do what lights them up. And when they're in their passion, their sacral life force is just really lit up. And so you have the capacity, the energetic capacity to, when you're doing your passion, you could be sitting at your desk for 8 hours doing it, but the time flies and you're having so much fun. And that works for you. So what works for me and what really allowed me to release shame was just realizing that I don't have the energetic capacity that you have. And we're all so different. Cause sometimes like my generator clients work more than I do, but it just allowed me to realize I can get the same amount done when I initiate things as maybe someone who is working 8 hours. And it's the same with like a projector. Like a projector, they also don't have quite as much energetic capacity as, say, a generator or a manifesting generator does. But as a projector, their signature theme is success. So all of the human designs get to be successful in their own energetic capacity, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like I feel it's just having a deeper appreciation that we all function differently energetically. So we have, what percentage are manifestors? 7%?
7%, 7 to 9.
Okay. And then the biggest group is my group, which kind of, so generators and manifesting generators, which sort of get lumped into 1%, correct?
Yeah. So they are 70%.
Okay. So like the majority of people fall into those two categories. And then projectors are about 11% or
21%.
Okay. And then the rarest are reflectors.
1%.
So can you give like just a very brief, I feel like you've kind of given a brief presentation of the generator and yourself, which is the manifestor. The Mani-Gen is kind of like a beautiful combination of those two. And so what is a brief description of a projector and then a reflector?
Yeah. And I'll touch a little bit on the Mani-Gen and how they're different from a generator, because manifesting generators, I'd say the difference, generators like to master one thing. So if you're, let's say, give the example of building a house and they're laying out the foundation and laying out the bricks, a generator will do it brick by brick by brick, and they work really, really fast, but they're like really good at laying brick by brick, versus manifesting generator. They work at hyper speed. Like they are the ones who are collapsing time, and like time doesn't exist for them, but they're going to skip a bunch of steps. Like maybe they go to a different part of the house that they're building, and then they realize, oh wait, I needed to actually do step 1, which is like laying the foundation first. So they're really limitless in the amount of energy that they have. But again, only when they're doing something they're passionate about. So if they're doing something that they don't love, you know, no one wants to be around a grumpy generator. So it's important. The energy capacity, like it really gets activated when you're in your passion, not when you're doing something that you don't love doing. And then as a projector, people always say like projectors are the sleepy ones, but not all projectors are sleepy. There's different kinds of projectors. But for the most part, projectors are here to really guide the energy and manage the energy. They're like a non-energy type. I don't know if you've ever met a projectors, but projectors, they have this really piercing aura. Like if you look in the eyes of a projector, I swear sometimes they look into your soul and you're like, whoa, like they're really here to see a system and make it more efficient, make it their own, do things in their own unique way, but they also need a lot of rest. And so a projector schedule could look something like, maybe we're doing the example of coaching or something, maybe they take a client call or work for an hour and then they take a 1 hour or a 2 hour break, or maybe they work for 2 hours and then take the rest of the day off. Like they're really not here to work like 8-hour days. They just kind of work here, take a nap, maybe go after working, lay on your bed, stare at the ceiling, empty out, do absolutely nothing. And then maybe work a little bit in the evening. Like it just kind of depends what works best for them.
Yeah. Then, I seem to attract a lot of most of my clients are projectors, which is interesting.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, you're all about energy. So maybe when projectors find out that they don't have as much energy, they're like, all right, now I need Megan to teach us how to manage our energy that we don't necessarily create ourselves.
Yeah. And so then reflectors, have you ever met one? They're so rare.
Yeah, I had a reflector client. Reflectors are beautiful. So it's interesting. Reflectors, they operate on the moon cycle. And so as they go through the month, and as like the their gates and channels and everything are changing on their body graph, they feel like a generator at some point, and then at some point maybe they feel a bit more manifestory, and then they'll feel like a projector. So they never know how they're going to feel the next day. So for them, it's really about tuning into delight and surprise, and just having this childlike, like, ooh, universe, surprise me with what's going to happen tomorrow, because they see everybody else and they are a mirror. So they mirror what they mirror you essentially, and like they mirror the people around them, but they a lot of times don't really know who they are. And something that's really important for reflectors is to have, because they have all open centers, is to have a really great environment that they feel really comfortable in. Environment is so important for reflectors, and also really anyone who has a lot of open centers. A good environment will be important. And then other things with reflectors, because they have a lot of open centers, and they're taking in a lot from other people, is to do like chakra clearings or grounding, or like going out into nature and like putting your feet in the ground and just emptying out anything that they've picked up on throughout the day. And honestly, anyone can do this if they have open centers, because where your centers are open is where you take in energy from other people. And where you have your human design centers defined is where like you have consistent energy yourself that is flowing to there. So where you have open centers, like for example, I have an open root center and an open sacral center. And if you have a sacral center that is defined, that means that you're a generator. But because mine is completely open, maybe if I'm at a cafe and I'm around a bunch of generators, I'm getting a ton of work done. I have all this energy, and I just crush like 5 hours of work. And then I come home, and then if I were to try and work more, that energy isn't sustainable for me, because I was basically like sucking it from everyone else at the cafe. So then what I would want to do is kind of like discharge, like let go, maybe do a meditation, and release all of that and calm down before bed, versus like keep going, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Can you explain the centers to us? Are they all based on chakras, or how does that work?
Yeah. So we have 9 energy centers, and the energy centers are the energy and the traits that make up who you are. So for example, let me think of like the centers I have defined. So I have the center that I struggle with the most is I have a defined ego center. I'm also an ego manifester. That is my authority. So I have consistent energy flowing to my defined ego or my defined will. And so because this is defined, I have a lot of willpower. And the will center is more of like a masculine center. So when I channel an idea for a project or like an offer or something I want to create or do, I can put all of my energy behind my will center and initiate like a manifester and get it done. But then I need to lean back and rest. It's not a center like the sacral that you have as a generator where it's consistent energy. It's like work and then rest, work and then rest. So I have this defined. Somebody who would have this center open, for example, they may not have that willpower to like go and make shit happen, right? But when they're in my presence, like if I were on a coaching call with someone who has an open center, maybe they have this energy to get something done because they're kind of taking from me. So a lot of times in life, we attract like someone who has something opposite of us. But another thing about having an open will center would be maybe if they're operating at a lower frequency of the will center, they maybe feel like they need to prove themselves, or if they're creating a program, they need to throw a lot of bonuses in it to make it feel worthy, or they're comparing themselves, or they're not feeling like good about themselves. So it's interesting. You can look at the centers and see where are you operating at a higher frequency versus where are you operating at a lower frequency. And every single human design center, once you start to kind of study, you can ask yourself questions to see if you're operating more at a high frequency or a low frequency. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah. So when someone, can you kind of describe, like, well, we won't show anyone, but like kind of give them an idea of like, what does a reading look like? Like describe the image that you're given to read.
Mm-hmm. So in a reading, what I normally would do, they're very intuitive. I'm very intuitive with the readings. Like no readings are the same, but when you pull up your human design chart, you're going to enter your name, you're going to enter your birth date, the month, the time, where you were born. And then it's going to pull up, it looks like a body graph, and there's 9 energy centers. You're going to see numbers on the left side, numbers on the right side. And the numbers on the left side, this makes up your unconscious side. So your soul, according to human design, your soul enters your body 3 months before you were born. So that's when the left unconscious side was created. And this is where we brought in all of our past lives, our ancestors, our stories that we have to work through in order to live a fulfilling life. And this may be something that others see in you, but you don't necessarily see in yourself. And then on the right side of the body graph, there are like a bunch of numbers that line up next to it. And this is your conscious side. So this is what you probably do see in yourself. So if I were to do a reading, I like to know a little bit about the person that I'm doing the reading with. Like maybe they can kind of tell me what's going on in their life. So if they're telling me like, oh, you know, my husband, I feel so emotional. Like I have all these outbursts. Like then maybe, you know, I would focus on looking at their solar plexus, which is all about your emotional center. And I can see kind of what their wave is like and what's triggering their wave. And then talk to them about emotional intelligence and, you know, how they can, if they feel like they're about to burst at their husband or something, how it would be really good for them to just go and take a walk, go watch Netflix, go be by themselves until their emotional wave calms down. So in a reading, I look at different centers. I also would like to share with them like how their strategy works, which I kind of mentioned before. Your strategy, at least for me as a manifestor, is to initiate, and every single one of the human designs has a different strategy. Also explain to them how their intuition works. But you can go so deep on a human design reading. So yeah, we'll just stop it at there because I don't want to overwhelm.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't even gotten to dove into the authorities too much yet. So what, can you just speak to the idea that it's something that should be used in your life as a guide and not as this like definitive thing that you live by? Because I feel like, for example, the example you just gave, like a lot of times the guidance that it can give you might be applicable to someone else as well. But I've felt that it's more just like this permission granted when you feel aligned with what your human design is teaching you about yourself. It's just this permission to honor the ebb and flow instead of trying to be something you're not. Would you agree?
Exactly. I think when you go down the human design rabbit hole, it's important to remember that it is a tool. It's not like sometimes I feel like, you know, you put yourself in a box with human design, but it's just a tool and it's something fun to experiment with. I like to think of it as a fun experiment and a tool at that. And I leave it at that.
How did you first come across it?
Here in Bali, I was in the DMs with somebody. Her name's Yana. She's actually in our mastermind, or was in the mastermind. And she told me I was a manifester. And I felt like my whole entire life made sense, especially the part where I learned that manifestors have a closed, repelling aura. I was like, oh, that makes sense.
Why does that make sense? Tell us that story.
I don't know. This was just a lot of healing on my part, but I was bullied a lot growing up. And when I heard that, I had like manifestors tend to have a closed and repelling aura. I thought it made sense because here in Bali, you know, I didn't have quite as many girlfriends as I wanted. So I this is me putting myself in a box, but like blamed it on just me being a manifestor and a lone wolf and having a closed, repelling aura. But I actually, once I started diving deeper into that inner work, I just realized I had some sisterhood wounds I needed to heal. And it wasn't a closed, repelling aura, because really, each human design has a not self theme. And the not self theme of a manifestor is anger. And this happens when we're not informing people what is going on. And so really the repelling aura only comes out when I'm in my not self theme of anger. So I'm not always closed and repelling. It's only when I'm in the not self theme.
Can you expand a little bit on that? Like, what does that look like, you informing people like on the day to day, or informing your audience, for example, versus not?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So informing actually doesn't come very natural to a manifestor. But a manifestor informs because if they don't inform, like they have so much power that if other people aren't informed of what they're doing, then it can maybe cause a little, not cause a little chaos, but like
comes off the wrong way.
Yeah. So it's even simple things informing about, let's say you have a partner at home and just informing your partner, I'm going to the grocery store, just letting them know what's up. I'm going upstairs to brush my teeth. When it comes to your online business, it works so well for me. I don't necessarily do quite as much educational content all the time. I just always inform my audience of what I'm creating. So I'll inform my audience and say, hey, I have this new program that I'm creating about XYZ. It's on pre-sale. I don't have a sales page yet, but this is how you purchase it. And this is what it's going to be about. And that's like all I need to do. It made business so much easier than thinking I had to have this 3-month launch plan and like all this content that was created way ahead of time. It's really just about me following my urges, informing people as I go. And I've realized the more that I inform, especially in my business, the easier business has flowed as well. Like I'm currently in a launch right now, and I just keep informing, like there's X amount of spots left in the mastermind. Here's the application. Here's how you join, and just inform all the way through.
Yeah. So tell us about what you're launching right now.
So I'm launching a mastermind for 6 months. It's called Ascension. And Ascension is, I feel like it's my soul's work because this time last year, you know, I was really in the masculine of my business. Like I was hustling. I was not allowing myself to be in my body and like actually just experience life. I was just so focused on my business, and my business wasn't working. It was, very hectic, very stressful. And then once I started to lean back in my feminine and not balance, but I would say I'm still working on it. Now I would say I'm like 50%, 60% in the feminine, 40% in the masculine. But ideally, you know, I want to be like 70% feminine, 30% masculine, but I'm still working on it. But Ascension is essentially a mastermind where I'm going to teach you how to build and scale a multi-six-figure business while harmonizing the masculine and feminine so that you aren't hustling, you aren't burnt out. You're actually like building your business from this really aligned place using human design, which I have also found that human design allows you to be more in your feminine. Because when you align with your energy type, which, as I said before, mine is just I initiate and burst and then I rest. I actually allow myself to rest versus feeling guilt and shame like, oh, I need to be working on my business. I only worked 1 hour today. I should be working more. It's just really aligning you to your human design and teaching you how to build a business in a really flowy way that feels really good for you and your human design.
Awesome. So can you just leave us with like for the person that's maybe not even in the online sphere, how can they use human design as a guide let's imagine they are in a 9-to-5 type scenario and how they show up on the day-to-day or how they manage self-care, that kind of stuff, besides just permission granted to do what you need to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you're new to human design, the first thing I would do is, and where you're going to see 80% of your results is through your strategy and through your authority. So for example, for you as a generator, your strategy is to respond. So let's say that you are in a 9-to-5, for example. Instead of initiating all the time like a manifestor, you are leaning back. So in your 9-to-5, you're just following your passion and following what lights you up. But you're responding to life. You're leaning back and like responding to maybe like an idea that someone has at work, for example. And you're like, ooh, I really like that. That really lights me up. And then you follow that. You're not necessarily the one in the 9-to-5 who's initiating everything. You're leaning back and responding to life. A lot of us are already really aligned to our human design. We just don't really realize it yet. Like I know a lot of generators who come out of the corporate world and they're like, actually, I was killing it in corporate. I was making multi-six figures and I wasn't really working that hard. And it's probably as a generator, they were just responding to what was coming to them. And then the other part would be you looking at your authority, which is how your intuition works. So that's where I would first start. 80% of your success with human design is just going to be from you following your strategy and your authority.
Awesome. And I guess we'll share, I know you have a blog post on your website that has a good sort of 101 and a link if people are interested in getting their own reading, which is the first step. And then all of the interpretation, which I feel like it can sort of be endless.
Yeah, I have a little blog post. So you can go there to learn a little more about it. I also have a free mini course that I can share with you.
Oh, cool. Perfect. Well,
Beautiful.
Thank you so much for being here. What else do you want to leave us with? How do you want people to connect with you?
Definitely the gram. You can find me on Instagram. I am the Femme CEO with the little underscore in between Femme and CEO. So I hang out there. You can shoot me a DM. I love connecting with everyone. So feel free to, if you listen to this podcast episode and you have more questions, I am open. So just shoot me a DM.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Laura, for being here and sharing your beautiful energy with us. And we'll have all those links in the show notes so you can connect easily with Laura.
Yay. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to Energetically You. I hope that this episode has helped you to tune into your natural energy sources so that you feel more energized and focused throughout your day. If you enjoyed the episode, please take a second to rate and review. Each review helps us to help more ambitious women just like you accomplish their goals. Don't forget to take a screenshot, share it on social or in your Instagram stories, and tag me at Megan Swan Wellness. See you soon.